Thank you, Abilene, for letting us slide in with you like that. And this is Shaena. Good morning, everyone. Really great to be on today because I get to visit with a fellow that's been around, Todd Simmons here, General Manager of PUD. You came like the first of the year?
Yeah, the very first of the year.
So you got some great people to work with. Barb Johnson and Joanna Stelzig, I think, was in yesterday. You got good people all over, don't you?
Definitely, and that's one of the big advantages of the PUD and why I decided to come out here is the employees at the PUD are definitely a big asset out here and something that was real attractive for me.
Well, and we're going to talk a little bit. Todd's got a great background. I noticed I was reading I think it was in the Headlight Herald had a little mention that
Right.
you were down in Eugene, Lane County for a while.
Yeah, I was with the Eugene Water and Electric Board for 15 years, and before that, Pacific Gas and Electric down in San Francisco.
So some big stuff.
Yeah.
But we've got, when I say big stuff, this is a pretty large county. You've got quite a bit to cover around here.
Yeah, quite a bit of territory, certainly long lines that some of our feeders are quite long, and so that makes a big difference for us as far as keeping our reliability up and finding ways to cover that territory, 1,200 square miles, and it takes quite a bit for a small workforce to cover that big area.
How many people do you have?
We've got 83.
Oh my goodness, that isn't very many when you think 75 miles of coastline here.
Yeah, 83 employees. We've got 3 servicemen that can respond all the time, and they're our first responders that go out. But then we've got 4 crews that are available to be dispatched as well. So we are available 24/7 and get out there. And certainly I've gotten a lot of feedback about how great our response has been.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, 3 servicemen and 4 crews, we get overwhelmed relatively quickly, especially with a big storm.
Well, and it seems like it doesn't take much. Just the other day, most of South County because of a tree over a BPA line.
Right. And that happens pretty quickly, and then you've lost power. We do a lot of switching for BPA. Sometimes their response time isn't as fast as we can get there, and so we've got agreements worked out with them so that we can operate some of their equipment and get stuff up quicker.
Our PUD was great at that in the 2007 storm because that was some big stuff, some Pacific Power lines, but we were here first.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got feeders, we've got big transmission lines that come in from both Bonneville Power Administration and Pacific Power. So depending upon the substation, we have some that come in and are fed from different ways.
Well, I'm sorry, I was staring at that. I'm not sure. I hope our system, and people, let us know if you're not receiving everything the way you should. I think Maria's walking this way because we might have had a little bit of a glitch there. But let me see that there she is. What are we doing? We're switching mics. That's what we're doing. And I can do it that fast, and there we go.
All right, back on.
We're back on, I think. Very good. Very good. Yes, I can. There we go.
So just to finish my point, we've got both Pacific Power and Bonneville Power Administration transmission lines that come into this area that feed our substations.
And it's interesting that's how we get our power, because we don't, they talk about producing your own power. A lot of ours is from Bonneville, isn't it?
Yeah, 99% of our power comes from Bonneville. So hydropower really does flow here. So the hydropower that's created along the gorge, that's where we get our power.
I know we're always looking, and the wave energy, there's a lot of things, but I think people realize how much more expensive that power is. And we're in our infancy. It's not that we're not paying attention. I often say that, but I think if people would realize 6 cents, 30 cents,
Yeah, it's a big difference. And the technology continues to grow, and eventually it'll catch up. It's just not quite there yet. And that's something that, we constantly in this industry try to balance is, what kind of renewable resources are out there, and what are the costs, and are there things that we can get into that can benefit our customers? And we're constantly trying to look out and make sure that we're taking care of them and investing in things that will help and that we don't get into soon. Certainly one of the biggest challenges that we have in our industry is the storage capacity. And as we get better storage, some of those technologies like wind and solar will be more advantageous. Right now, if the wind's not blowing or the sun isn't shining, we've got to have the same amount of resources as a backup.
Exactly.
For those times when that's not happening. And so hydropower is a great backup for that because we can adjust how much is flowing through and how much we're generating. And so right now we're in a good place. But our contract with Bonneville, all of the utilities in the Northwest contracts with Bonneville will expire in 2028.
That's not very far away.
It's not from a planning perspective. So that's one thing we're keeping an eye on, and we're working with Bonneville and our other utility partners to make sure that those costs are still affordable moving forward.
Well, and I know people say wind, but the realization that to use wind, it must be at least 6 miles an hour, no more than 60, kind of a general rule. That doesn't really happen. Sometimes we have no wind, sometimes we have a lot of wind, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
To have that steady, and then the storage for the times that wind isn't but water.
Yeah, water is, and sometimes they use water for storage as well.
Interesting.
When they have a lot of excess power, they'll pump water into a reservoir.
Of course.
And then spill that water back out when they don't need it.
And that turns
but
to
again,
turbines.
pretty expensive to build something like that. And so that's why it's still, like you said, in its infancy. But we're always keeping an eye on what's out there so that we can be prepared to bring that kind of resource to this community.
And we'll talk a little bit about preparedness. You've, I'm sure, met Gordon McCraw, our emergency management director with the county. Great guy. We're lucky to have him. And we're going to have the winter prep meeting in the middle of October.
Right.
But what have you been doing? I know that our PUD is out there kind of clearing away those lines and getting the ditches ready because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, certainly all summer we've been doing a lot of tree trimming. We even had a helicopter come in and trim a couple of our transmission lines. We've also been doing a lot of training at the PUD with the incident command system. So most of the employees now have received Incident Command System 100 training, which is just a management system that is used throughout the nation. It was part of a presidential directive after 9/11 as part of the National Incident Management System to train folks so that we're all using the same language, so that we're all set up in the same way, so that when we do have big storms or other things that could happen in this area, earthquakes, tsunamis, big wildfires, that we're all operating in the same way. We're all communicating in the same way. We're using the same equipment. We are talking the same language so that we can easily integrate with all of the emergency responders here in the county.
So important. I was just talking with Todd before we came on the air about something we're doing in Bay City and getting ready for our town hall meeting and our emergency management committee, our emergency preparedness committee. But Todd, I'd like to talk to your people to make sure that, I believe that our Daryl Griffith, our fire chief, is probably very much aware. But what you're saying is that we all need to be on the same page.
Right. And it's something that certainly I've had experiences with when I was part of the emergency response with after the Loma Prieta earthquake in San Francisco in 1989. And in that particular situation, that event, you know how you always have the emergency broadcasts that happen? And so you hear them all the time, and you're prepared for those emergency broadcasts so that you can get that information when something happens. Well, the emergency broadcast tower fell down in the earthquake. And so here we had years of emergency broadcasts, then nothing when the actual event took place. And so all police and fire were on that same tower. And so Pacific Gas and Electric allowed police and fire to use their radio system to to do all the response. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to continue to do in this area, is make sure that we're constantly working together, constantly testing our equipment, constantly working to try to find those solutions, because when you have a big event like that, all of a sudden those things that you normally rely on are no longer available.
And when you said that, one thinks of our tower on Cape Mears.
Yeah.
And then one could remember that we have these 160-foot towers behind us that really are just for the AM. But that's something that is so wonderful about this county, is that the way that our resources connect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there'll be a lot of work that we'll be doing with our, as far as interoperability with our radio systems moving forward as well.
Excellent, excellent. I know that our intergovernmental agreements in Bay City work so well, whether we have water that we can share with Tillamook.
Right.
And vice versa, because we have a transmission line now under the Wilson River. Just throw a valve.
Yeah.
But the things that we work with our other municipalities, the same way our PUD working with Bonneville Power and with the bigger ones too.
Right. And one of the things that we've done here just recently is join something called the Western Energy Institute. And the Western Energy Institute manages what's called the Western RMAG, which is the Western Regional Mutual Aid Group. And there are 7 RMAGs throughout the country. And so that's how we'll be connected for mutual aid. So any of the utilities now on the West Coast will be able to respond directly to our area. And we already have an agreement in place, so that it's just a matter of making a phone call.
Well, and we saw that with the sadness in Houston and with Harvey and in Florida,
right,
with Irma, and it's now continuing with Maria, but that the utilities were responding.
Right, and it takes a crazy amount of crews and resources, materials, et cetera, to rebuild a system like that. And certainly there could be a situation that happens here. And we want to make sure that we have folks that are lined up, that we have contracts already in place, and that we're ready to go.
Perfect. We're visiting with Todd Simmons, General Manager of our Tillamook PUD, but we're going to take a short break for a great sponsor, because registration is still open for fall term classes at Tillamook Bay Community College. If you want to get started on your college education in the upcoming year, you have from now until this coming Sunday to register. You want to hurry on this one, folks. Classes start on Monday the 25th, so hopefully you're already registered. But if you're not, you still got time. Enrolling at TBCC as a degree-seeking student, you'll need to complete an admission application and attend a student orientation session by tomorrow, but you can still do it, so you can register for class. You can get started online or by visiting the Student Services Office at the college main campus on 3rd Street. Students who have recently taken classes at TBCC can just register online. TBCC offers day, evening, and online classes to help accommodate students with busy work and life schedules. The Business Administration program is offered entirely online. A schedule of credit courses and non-credit community education classes offered throughout the term is available on the TBCC website. That's tillamookbaycc.edu. Great time to start or finish your education. Don't let another year go by before you decide to start achieving your dreams. Now, folks, you may not have time, but if you're pushing it out to the last minute, you still have time to get by there and get registered. But there's always something wonderful to take advantage of over at our community college. In fact, we're back visiting with Todd Simmons, our general manager at Tillamook PUD. Our PUD plays a part in our maintenance and industrial technology program over there.
Right. Yeah, it's something that we've been involved with for a while, and certainly something that will continue.
I think that's great when people talk about whether or not they still have shop at the high school. I said, well, in Tillamook, we really do on a pretty impressive scale. Everything, it's not just shop, maybe some robotics and everything else.
Right, and we spend some time going out to the high schools, going to the career fairs, and really talking about all the different careers that are available in the electric industry. We don't realize, we see the guys up on the pole and we think, oh, hey, that's a great job, but maybe I'm afraid of heights, or maybe that's something I don't want to work out in the weather like that, or maybe it's something that I'll eventually aspire to be. But actually, with the technology and the changes that have happened in the industry, we need a lot of people that know how to program computers and know how to work with real technical equipment. And so that's really where the industry is going. And so once we can show that to some of the folks in high school, they can see all the different opportunities that are available.
What made you decide to start in the field, Todd?
I started as an intern when I was in college at Pacific Gas and Electric, and same thing. I had no idea, what all the different careers that are available, and so started doing it and started seeing all the different things, all the different opportunities, and so it was a great chance for me to see. At Pacific Gas and Electric at that time, there were 26,000 employees, and
oh my gosh,
and covered most of California.
More than we've got in the county.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy. You get lost fairly quickly, but at the same time, in a big place like that, if you did have some career aspirations, you could move up relatively quickly and find those cool jobs and those things that you wanted to do. So that's what I ended up doing.
Excellent. Hey, you've been here since last January, so you must have been to our fair.
I did. First time I was able to get out to the Tillamook County Fair. Certainly I worked in the PUD booth quite a bit, and that was not only a great opportunity to meet a lot of people in the community, but also spend some time with my employees, which was a lot of fun. And then my son and I spent some time bopping around, and we saw the Pig and Ford's race and, and the Destruction Derby and ate a lot of the great food and saw the animals. So it was a lot of fun.
As fairs go, I think ours is one of the finest because it is a true county fair. And the animals
agree
and
with
people,
that,
and it's a great place and a good location. And that's interesting things are happening where we want to attract more people to our county, and some do more than others, but to have conventions in that here. Now that's one of the things that to me is kind of interesting. PUD does something to help. They've helped the city with the lighting at our park.
Right.
There's some grants and things that work together that for the new buildings and that.
Yeah, there are a lot of different opportunities. Certainly, a lot of conservation efforts that we have. We invest a lot in the community, taking a look at lighting and other conservation efforts. We've got a great conservation group down at the PUD, and they'd be happy to tell you about all the different programs, from weatherization to appliances to lighting. There's a lot of different opportunities. But we also do community grants every year. The board spends a lot of time looking at all the different applications and assigning those dollars. And they help in a variety of ways and a variety of projects throughout the county.
And if Bay City was able to, it's part of the reason our tennis court, basketball court was resurfaced. And with the lighting, that was, I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it ended up we saved money because the lighting is so much more efficient.
Right.
And there was a little bit of it wasn't a grant program, but it really worked out quite well, and in the long run, it's saving us money.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of benefits, and our group can talk about them and tell you about all of those different things. And so if someone out there has a project or they think they might benefit from that, it's a great opportunity to get a hold of the PUD and talk to those folks. I talked a little bit about the grant program that the board has. They invest up to $50,000 in projects throughout the county, and I'm not sure that how you live in a community and you kind of just think that's how things go, but I'm not sure if this community knows how involved the PUD board is in the community. It's unique. It's not as in other counties and at other municipalities, boards spend 5 or 10 minutes a week learning about the utility and then going to the board meetings. The board here is really involved in the community and even regionally and does a lot of work in keeping the PUD relevant and kind of on the cutting edge. So that was another piece that was real attractive for me heading out here is how involved the board is.
That's good to hear too.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that, Todd. Now I've been impressed with our PUD, and there's a lot you can find out about what Todd and I have been talking about. They've got an excellent website, tpud.org. And one thing that Barb and Joanna were talking about yesterday, October, you're promoting the I use the Smart Hub to pay my bill
Right.
online. There's something, if you haven't used it before and sign up for it, you get $5 or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, we're doing a little promotion to get more people using Smart Hub. There's just so many different advantages to using it. You can even you can notify us that you've got an outage using Smart Hub, and so there's a lot of information on that. And so, more people can get to use it, the better we'll be connected with our customers, and it's a lot better way to share information on a regular basis. We also just started this year getting a little bit more out there with our social media. So you can join us and see what's happening on Twitter and Facebook. We'll try to let you know about outages, things that are happening. Just as an example, last night Pacific Power had a problem with some of their equipment and let us know that they were going to have an outage at about midnight for about 10 minutes. And that affected all those same folks down in South County that were affected by that tree falling into the line. And so that was something that we were able to get out on Facebook and Twitter right away so that folks could be a little bit prepared and understand what was happening and that it wasn't going to be an extended outage.
And the advantages of social media, I just am so impressed. I often say, well, let me tell my 1,200 closest friends, because
Right.
it's because the way we can share things and get that information out, and that's what counts sometimes. Is
Right.
people say, well, it's only going to be a few minutes. I just saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you take advantage. And I encourage you to use Smart Hub if you're not using it. I've been using it for some time. Kind of interesting because you can see what your usage is, even for the last week compared with
Right.
a year ago or the last month.
Yeah, and a lot of folks have been able to diagnose some of the issues that they've had. It's like, oh, what is running? What continues to run for me? And then you start seeing, oh, hey, here's a way that I can save a little bit and not use as much electricity. And certainly in this community, that's something that we want to constantly keep an eye on. Our infrastructure is kind of maxed out in a lot of areas, and so the more opportunities we can to share that information with our customers and have people conserve a little bit, the better it would be.
It's very true, Todd. And when you say that, I know that we have that transmission line that's still going to happen.
Yeah.
I think its route is been changed and now is secured.
Yeah, we've got a route. We certainly worked with the community quite a bit to develop that route. We've got the best route that we can. The folks out in Oceanside and Netarts, their reliability is 3 times worse than the rest of the county, and so we've got an obligation to serve. We've got an obligation to make that right. We've got one single feeder line that heads out there that when we need to work on it, everybody's out of power, and so building the Oceanside transmission line and substation will help in Tillamook as well. It'll help us backfeed Tillamook. It'll help us rebuild that single line that we have out there. And so, we're continuing to try to find ways to work with the affected property owners and come up with a plan that works, that allows us to get that built.
You know, one of the things, and we're almost ready to wrap up, I have to catch up sometime. I was going to visit with Farm Power. I know we've got a few digesters. I know we've got one on hold. We're still trying to figure that out at the port.
Right.
But some the on-site ones, those work, don't they?
Yeah, there's a couple of still in operation and doing fine. And then the one at the port, we've been working with a vendor, a contractor that's looking into getting that one up and rolling again as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Todd, thank you. We're going to have you on a regular basis so we can catch up on how things are going, and it's, like they say, in the best of times and the worst of times. So
Right.
Come over in the summertime and in the middle of winter too.
Yeah, well, that would be great. Thanks for having me. Certainly interested in sharing information that's happening at the PUD, and welcome anyone who'd like to get a hold of me and talk about something specific.
Well, that sounds good. Again, and tpud.org, a great website and lots of great information. Hey, it's senior meals, noon every weekday at the Kiwanda Community Center in Pacific City, and that's as well as our Tillamook Senior Center. And you know, That's on 4th and Stillwell there by Safeway. This weekend is the inaugural Pelican Brewery Salmon Run. There's a 5K and a 10K. It's going to be on Saturday, and it's going to start and finish at the tap room there on 1st and Stillwell. It's a timed race, and it's going to kick off at 10 o'clock, right after 10, and you're just going to run around Tillamook. And then you're going to get back to and have a party and everything at the tap room. That'll be fun. You can find out more at pelicansalmonrun.com. And we've only got a couple more weekends for farmers markets. Manzanita's over with. That ended last Friday. But Tillamook and Nesquin are going to go through the 30th. So they're going to go through a week from Saturday. And Pacific City, their last one is this Sunday. So you got to get to them. I know I'm going to get to them. Saturday, it's another open mic night at Yo Time to benefit Art Accelerated, art education classes. Event starts at 6:30. And they have tutoring at Yo Time on Tuesdays. I think that's a really cool idea. That's a neat idea. Tomorrow, Porta Garibaldi is going to be here. And oh, by the way, happy birthday, Bob Swetland. Todd, thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks again for having me.
And thank you, Tillamook.